Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session today on Marist College. In particular, we're going to talk about how Marist has a connection with Italy via the Verrazano Bridge. That is just going to be the quick introduction to all the great things that are offered in New York and Italy. So if you're not familiar, the Verrazano Bridge is located in New York City. This is just an outside shot of what the bridge looks like at night. And it was named after this gentleman here. This is Giovanni di Verrazzano, and he is an Italian explorer who was commissioned by the French, and he discovered, or was one of the people to discover, the Bay of New York. And I'm going to go back to that picture in just a moment. This is New York City. If you're not familiar, if you haven't visited, I recommend coming to visit us. The New York City is comprised of 5 different boroughs. As you can see on the right, there's Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, and Staten Island. And then the Lower Bay and the harbor there is where the Verrazano Bridge is. So it connects Staten Island to Brooklyn. And it's a very famous bridge. It was completed in the 1960s, but this area of New York was discovered by Giovanni back in 1524. And they named the bridge after him. You can tell by the picture on the right that he was born in Tuscany, and he is born just just outside the city of Florence, which is a very gorgeous city, and a city I'm going to be talking a lot about in a couple of moments. If you follow this Hudson River all the way up, about 60 miles, you'd reach the New York campus where Marist is located. And we have a very strong connection to Florence, Italy, so I thought it was appropriate that we connected the discovery of this area of New York with our Florentine component. Marist is located in New York. We're, as I mentioned, 90 minutes north of New York City. We are a Division I institution. There's the Hudson River right there. We have a number of different programs, which I'll put on the screen in just a moment. As I mentioned, we're 90 minutes north of New York City. We're in Princeton Review's top 50 colleges that create futures. If I were to describe Marist in one sentence, we have the power of a global university with the personal touch of a leading liberal arts college. We're not a large university. We're not a small university. We definitely consider ourselves medium-sized. We have just over 5,000 undergraduate students. We have 40 different majors available, just under 1,000 grad students. We have 15 grad programs, including a doctoral program. And this is a great place for students to visit because we have students from all over the United States, about 44 different states represented in 58 different countries. We have a 16-to-1 student-faculty ratio. The majority of our students live on campus. 24% of our students come from a racially or ethnically diverse background. And a lot of people on campus are really focused on student success and making sure that the students are going to have a well-rounded education, but also provide an opportunity for them to develop the skills that they need to be successful in life. 97% of our graduates are employed or attending grad school within 6 months of our graduation. And our graduation rates are much higher than those of our private competitors as well as public competitors. It is a fantastic place to attend university. And I'm a product of Marist. I'm a proud Marist grad, and I've also worked there for a number of years. We have a number of different degrees available for our students. As I mentioned, for about 44 different programs. Internships are going to be very big, but also the opportunity to have access to facilities on campus. That's one of the best things about the institution, is the hands-on experience that a student would receive on the campus or in an internship or with access to New York City. We're in the beautiful Hudson River Valley. And as you can see here in some of the videos, we have our students that are taking full advantage of being in this region of the United States. We have great facilities for science students, for our cybersecurity students, for business. We're AACSB accredited for business. This puts us within the top 25% of one of the best business schools in the world. We have a Center for Cybersecurity. We have a Center for Social Media. There are so many great opportunities for our students to really get their hands dirty with the educational experience. One of the other opportunities at Marist is that we have over 80 clubs and organizations. There's a lot to do. And it's not so much that it's a place for students to explore different passions and different interests. It's also a place for students to develop leadership qualities. Those are the things that you're going to find students are putting on their resumes. So as they are getting involved with the community, they are getting leadership positions. It's really preparing them for their resume, making sure that they have notable things on their resume for when they're applying for internships and when they're applying for jobs after Marist. You probably know that Princeton Review puts out the top 400 colleges and universities in the United States, and we're always on that list. They don't necessarily rank them, but we are included in that top 400. They also pared down a top 50 list, so the top 50 colleges that create futures. In that top 50 list, which we're very proud to be on, they determine the colleges that create futures are really about opportunities beyond the traditional classroom experience. And that's something that Marist does very well. Here's just a quick snapshot of some of the places where our students study abroad. And study abroad really is woven into the fabric of the institution. We have very international beginnings. So although we were founded by the Marist Brothers, which is a religious organization, we are a non-denominational. We're not affiliated with the Catholic Church anymore. But the Marist Brothers exist all around the world. There are about 700 Marist schools globally. And we still carry the same traditions of those Marist Brothers at Marist. So excellence in education, service to the community. There's a saying that the Marist Brothers have that Marist students do carry with them, and that's doing good work quietly. So it's doing the right work, the work that needs to be done, not for the greater external recognition, but because it is the right thing to do. And you'll see students emulate that on campus. And of course, when they're traveling abroad, we do have many service trips for students to get involved in, and many of them will be involved in community service, whether it's in our local community, the United States, or globally. If you have students that have an inkling of a desire to study abroad, Marist is a great place for study abroad. And for international students that are coming to the United States for the first time, that doesn't necessarily mean that their study abroad options have to end there. We have international students that will continue with their global education and study in all different parts of the world. You may already know this, but only 10% of US students study abroad. And at Marist, it's over 50%. The majority of our students are having either a semester, short-term, or first-year abroad study abroad experience, or some of them will do multiple study abroad experiences. If a student has a small desire to study abroad, we're a great place for that because we'll help them figure out what would be a good fit. And then there are students that have a very specific idea of what they want to study and where they want to study in terms of country and program, and we can facilitate that. And even though we have students going to 70 different locations worldwide, if there is a program a student is interested in that is not listed as a Marist option, they can work with our study abroad office to make that become a reality. This is just an external ranking of our study abroad programs. So we're ranked in the top 40 of master's granting institutions by IIE, and our students are continually engaged in study abroad. Two programs in particular that are very unique to Marist are our first year abroad programs. We have a program where students can spend their entire academic freshman year in either Florence, Italy, or Dublin, Ireland. And these are unique programs within the United States in terms of an institution because students are applying directly to these programs. These programs do not exist as a release valve for housing. They do not exist as a placeholder for students that are not academically strong enough to go into the main campus. These programs exist for students that want to immerse themselves in a new culture, challenge themselves, make lifelong relationships, and begin their global education early. And for some students that are coming from outside the United States and they aren't really ready to make the leap to study physically in the US, they would start out in Europe and do a full freshman year in Florence or Dublin. As I mentioned, these programs students apply directly to, and a student has a choice if they're admitted to either remain in the New York campus and then study abroad at another time, or take part in this life-changing opportunity and join the program. We do have specific scholarships available for students that are going to participate in the freshman abroad programs, whether that's in Dublin or in Florence. And we know these programs are not for every student. We do require a group interview. It's not necessarily an evaluative interview. It's more of an informative interview, so students understand the full scope of the program. They aren't semester programs. I just want to reiterate, these are full academic year, fall, spring semester. There's no way to do one or the other. You have to do the full academic year. And in our experience with doing this over 10 years, that's really where students get the most benefit out of the program. Florence happens to be the #1 study abroad destination for Marist students. And many schools will talk about having campuses in Florence, but I guarantee that no one has a campus like us. We are the only US bachelor degree program that exists in Florence, Italy. And our friend Giovanni de Verrazano, where he grew up, his castle is just outside of this beautiful Tuscan city. We offer bachelor degree programs, master degree programs, and as I mentioned, our freshman Florence experience. Tuscany is a wonderful, wonderful region of Italy, and our students really take advantage of the city of Florence in their educational experience. So we have our main campus in New York, and then we have our fully accredited branch campus in Florence, where we have Marist staff that are there to help facilitate the educational experience. All of the courses in Florence are taught in English, except for the Italian courses, of course. Those are taught in Italian. We have a great location. We're right in the city center of Florence, and everything is within a 10-minute walk of the city, of class, of where students live. All the apartments are fully furnished. We have resident assistants, resident directors. It's fully operating urban campus. Students love coming to Florence because of it being an open-air museum. It's a World Heritage Site, birthplace of the Renaissance. It is a very friendly and safe city. There are probably 20,000 students studying in Florence at one time. And it's a very international city. And this is something that I loved as a student there, where I would be able to walk the streets of Florence. You don't need buses to get anywhere. You don't need taxis to get anywhere. And I would be running across people from all corners of the globe, because there are so many tourists that come to Florence and so many artists that come to Florence, art enthusiasts. You're going to be in this very small community where, as you're there longer and longer, you're going to get to know certain shopkeepers, get to know the residents of Florence, but then you're also running into people from all corners of the planet, which you get this very interesting experience where you have the small community, but with a very global feel. It's a very travel-friendly place too. So if students have the travel bug, they are able to take a night train or a short flight and be in a completely new country with completely new customs, new foods, new way of life. It really is a beautiful place for students to study. And this is just an overview, a film shot of what Florence looks like just outside the city, across from the Arno. Our president loves to joke about having the Arno in Florence and then the Hudson River in Poughkeepsie. And this is just a nice overview of downtown Florence, the city center of Florence. Now, the programs that we offer there are really built off the strengths of Italy. As I mentioned, these are all accredited programs, all taught in English except for Italian. We have our Bachelor of Science in Communication with a focus in global marketing and communication. We have Bachelor of Science in Conservation Studies. This is a fantastic program for students because they are working on 14th, 15th, 16th century pieces of artwork, artwork that was created by Donatello, and our students are handling it and restoring it. We have a Bachelor of Science in Digital Media, BFA in Fashion Design. This fashion design major for the admission process does require a portfolio, and that is reviewed by faculty, and then the students are reviewed by the faculty and by the admission office. We do have a BA in Fine Arts and Art History and a BA in Studio Art. There's also a BS in Studio Arts, and this is a program that also requires a portfolio. So if someone wants to become a career artist and they're interested in the Bachelor of Science in Studio Art, then they would apply with a portfolio. We also have the BFA in Interior Design. For this degree, students are required to submit a portfolio. And then we have our Italian language program. And then a number of different minors are available for the Florence students as well. So just to recap, the BFA in Fashion Design, BFA in Interior Design, and the Bachelor of Science in Studio Arts are all programs that would require the portfolio. This is just in the city center. This is the facade of the Duomo. And I wanted to include this because it is just an absolutely gorgeous piece of art, piece of history. And it is something that when you're going to class as a student, you're just constantly walking past this, and you can't help but be impressed by it. And it usually just stops you right in your tracks. Florence is one of those cities where as you arrive to the city, you were just bombarded with different smells and different tastes and different sounds and different sights. And it can be a little overwhelming, just the beauty of it. And as you get to know the city more and more, you really get to appreciate the nuances of this very beautiful and historic city. So I highly recommend this as a place to study or as a place to study abroad for students that may be interested. And then just some shots of just walking through the streets of Florence. I think one of the things that I remember most when coming back to the United States after studying here was scenes like this. So just the beauty of the city, the way the light bounces off the buildings. It's just a very beautiful place. So we're coming up on towards the question and answer session of the presentation. So I want to make sure that I leave enough questions or enough time for your questions. And if you do have any, you can submit them through the Q&A, and certainly I'll be able to either answer those questions or get back to you if I don't know the answers. And we can just keep it on this last slide of Florence. So I'm happy to take any questions that you may have about the New York campus located in the Hudson River Valley, or the Florence campus located in Tuscany in the center of Italy. So feel free to send any questions that you may have. Otherwise, I'm happy to talk about some other topics that may come up. So I think it's important to address the differences in the application process when it comes to the two campuses. So if students are interested in New York and they want to apply for one of our freshman abroad programs, the students would apply through the Common App or through the Marist application. On the application, there is an option to do a drop down with the interest in the FFE program or the FDE program. We give a holistic review in the full application process, and that means that we're looking at everything. We're looking at the students' transcripts. We're looking at the letters of recommendation. We want to know what the student is like in the classroom, what the teachers are saying about the student. We don't offer interviews generally for the students that are applying to the New York campus. So we do look to the essay to get a good sense of what the student is like and what their interests are. It's something beyond what you would find in the traditional application. We want to know what they're involved in, what their passions are, what their interests are. The reality is that we want to educate students, but we really want them to bring all of their passions and their interests to Marist and give back to the greater community. That's how the educational experience really thrives at Marist, is the greater community coming from all different parts of the world. So those are the reasons why we ask those things on the application. We have very strict deadlines for the New York campus. So if a student is applying early decision, which is binding, or early action, we ask that they apply by November 15th. And then we have a later deadline of March 1st, and that's regular decision. And so we'll have those two main opportunities to apply. We also have an early decision to deadline of February 1st. And that really is a binding contract. It's a binding application plan for students that have discovered us a little bit later. So we have a number of students that apply for early decision 2, but the majority of our students are applying through early decision 1, early action, or a regular decision deadline, which is March 1st. Now, for the Florence campus, we do a rolling admission process. So students apply, and once their application is complete, then we would review it and bring it to the committee, make a decision, and send out a decision within a few weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. We'll be able to send out a decision for the Florence campus. We know that when students apply, they are interested in scholarships, so we are automatically considering students for scholarships. And the scholarships are managed the same way as the admission process, so it's a committee decision. We are reviewing the students' academics, the type of school that they're coming from, the courses that they're taking. If they have the SAT, we'll use it, but we've been SAT optional for the last 10 years, more than 10 years. This is not something that we developed because of the pandemic. This is something that in our research, we determined that we can tell more about a student in 4 years of high school than 3 or 4 hours on one particular exam. However, there are students every year that submit the SAT, and that's totally fine. We have students that take it. They appreciate the scores. They feel like they are a good fit for them. So they submit them, and we'll definitely use them. And then consequently, there are students that take the SAT or the ACT and feel that the scores do not accurately reflect their abilities, and we don't use them. And every year we have students who are admitted and receive scholarship, and we never see an SAT or ACT. And that goes for New York as well as for Florence. Now, the only exam that we would require would be the TOEFL, the IELTS, or the Duolingo English test. We would need one of those to prove English proficiency if the student is a non-native English speaker. Now, there are other ways to waive this. So if a student is attending a US curriculum abroad or an IB program, and they've never taken any ESL courses, then we can waive the TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo English test requirement. If they did take the SAT, if they have access to and they took it and they receive a score of 500 or higher on the critical reading or writing section, then we would also waive the the English proficiency requirement for those students. For the TOEFL, we only ask for an 80. That would be the minimum. For the IELTS, we ask for a 6.5. And for the Duolingo English test, we ask for a 105. And then the students, that's all they need for that process. Now, our office will also facilitate the visa process for students if they're going to the New York campus, and if they're coming to the Florence campus, they would work with our Florence office to facilitate the Italian visa. Whether, depending on where they are in the world, they would have to work with either the Italian consulate or the US consulate to secure their visa. As I know we have just a little bit left, probably about 7 minutes left. So I want to make sure that I do answer any questions that you may have, and it could be particular about students that you're advising, or if you are students, any questions about programs that we offer. But feel free to submit any questions that you have. So in terms of cost, the cost of the New York campus and the Florence campus are the same, and the scholarship models are the same. Meaning that when a student applies for the Florence campus or a student applies for the New York campus, the scholarships, the way we evaluate for scholarships are the same. So the cost is the room and board and college fees, everything rolled into one is probably going to be, it will be just over $60,000 US per year. Florence is a little bit cheaper in the sense that students are cooking on their own, and most of the books are going to be in a digital format. The US government requires the students to meet to show that they can afford a full year of academic study. The scholarships range from $10,000 to $25,000 per year. And then in Florence, the Italians ask that the students can prove at this point, and it changes sometimes, that they have at least $13,000. I believe it's $13,500 in the bank. They don't have to show that they have proof of the full cost of attendance to obtain an Italian visa. We have students that start in the FFE program and decide, you know what, I'm going to stay in Florence, and that's totally fine. As long as the major exists in the Florence campus, students can stay there and remain there. We do have students that come back to New York after their freshman Florence experience and decide that they want to go back to Florence. Maybe they do a semester or a year in New York and then go to Florence. It's rare that we would have a student in Florence in the four-year degree program that decides to just come back to New York, finish their degree. Usually that would happen if there is maybe a challenge that happens in the family, or they need to be closer if they have family in the United States. That would be the only reason. We do have students that start out in the Dublin campus and then will complete their degree in the Florence campus. And then we have students that have done the Dublin program, have studied abroad, perhaps in Florence, and then maybe go to Thailand for another study abroad, or get involved in one of our programs where we travel all throughout Southeast Asia for a business program. So there are many opportunities for students to have that global education at Marist. I think I covered most of the top questions that we get about the school. We give a holistic review in the application process. There are scholarships available. We do offer scholarships, well, I would say financial aid rather, for students that have need-based aid. So if a student is interested in financial aid and they're a non-US citizen, they would complete the CSS profile and they may qualify for additional aid. And that aid would be in combination with their scholarship. For the New York campus, we are Division I in athletics, so we do offer athletic scholarships. And then we have other specialty scholarships around music and around theater that students would apply for. And that is up to the discretion of either the directors of those programs or the coach of that particular sport. But again, we're a Division I in New York. And in fact, we have some students that participate in the freshman Florence experience, a Dublin experience, come to New York and try out for one of our D1 teams and walk on the team. We've certainly had that happen in women's lacrosse and in crew for our rowing team. So there is scholarship and financial aid available for both campuses. And as I mentioned, even though study abroad for Marist students, the #1 location is Florence, we do have students that study in 70 different locations. So I know it's very Florence heavy, but that's because we have we're very proud to have a full-on branch campus that's there. We are open for visits on both campuses. So if you or students have a chance to come to New York or come to Florence, I'd be very happy to arrange a personalized visit, meet with faculty, have some food, get a private tour, just get a sense of what the institution has to offer. I think when you look at different institutions around the world, particularly in the Northeast of the United States as well, many things look very similar on paper. And it's really important to get to the campus and get a sense of what it's like. Every campus has a different personality, a different vibe, a different energy. And it's really important to get there and feel the energy of the institution and think to yourself, is this a place where I can wake up every day and walk down these sidewalks, walk past these buildings, eat in this dining hall, see these types of people every day? Will I be comfortable? Is it a place that will help me develop into the person I want to be? Do the values and the ideals that the institution have, do they align with my values and ideals? So these are some big questions that we hope students are thinking about when they're coming to the campus. I would also encourage anyone interested to engage with us in a virtual space as well. We have a virtual tour, we have virtual information sessions, we have virtual student panels. So there's many things going on. And then we'll do some specialty events for the Florence campus and for the New York campus as well. So I think we're just about out of time. And I want to thank you all for listening. And again, my name is Joe. I would be reading applications if a student is applying for the New York campus or the Florence campus.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe, so much for your time. I'm sure everyone who came out got all the information they were looking for about your school. And if you want more information from Joe, you can check out his booth over at the exhibit hall today. He'll be here the rest of the day. Yeah. So if you have any other questions, head over there. And thank you again.
Thank you. Hey, everyone.